What's up, guys? Dom here, and welcome to another VOD review. This week, the games in the EU LCS were pretty one-sided, which made it a little bit difficult to decide which game to review. Nonetheless, the game I chose was between H2K and Fnatic, and it was played on Week 7, Day 1. And the reason I chose this game was because I believe that H2K is the best macro team in Europe right now, and I really enjoyed the way they abused the draft and early lane pressure to get a gold lead in the early game. So we're going to jump right into the draft and see how they got this advantage. Okay, so first ban Kalista, which has been banned against Reckless a lot. Alistar is followed up. Just a really strong pick for Vander. They're able to pick a lot of fights, and he's really strong at initiating fights for the team. Kog'Maw's followed up with that. This was the first game of the week, and I thought that Reckless's performance on Kog'Maw just made the champion look extremely stupid. So they banned it out, and it seems like the way they view it is if they ban out a couple strong ADs and force Reckless off one of the power picks, they'll just rely on the fact that he won't be able to carry the team in the late game. And if he's not able to carry the team in the late game, they'll just end up winning off the gold lead that they'll amass in the early game. So H2K has pretty much decided to go for an AD carry central ban strategy. Fnatic decides to ban Poppy. It's been a strong pick for IWDominate. H2K is willing to first pick it, which is different than some of the other teams. And I think that Poppy's just still really strong even after the small nerfs that she got. Keep the draft going here. Last ban is Lulu, I believe. Lulu isn't a champion that plays really well into H2K's strengths. They like to play early pressure lanes, and they like to play comps that have control-based mid laners or assassin mid laners. They don't really prefer to have a champion that's more supportive in the mid lane. Ryu's a really strong carry for the team, so Lulu ban completely makes sense to me. And last ban, Lucian from Fnatic, because they believe that that's one of Forgiven's best champions. The problem with this, and the reason I would rather have seen a different ban here, is because this allows H2K to first pick Corki, and they've shown that Forgiven's more comfortable playing Corki than most ADs right now, and they also play a mid for Ryu, so it's a really strong flex, and I think it's just a more powerful champion than Lucian at the moment. So yeah, IWDominate selects Corki as the first pick for H2K. And this is a pick that is almost guaranteed to have lane pressure in the early game mid. There's no champion that I've seen that actually directly beats Corki in the mid lane or has a good matchup versus Corki in the mid lane. So I think it's a really strong pick, and it also is flexible to bot lane. So if for some reason Reckless takes Caitlyn or whatever champions Forgiven wants to play, he'll always be able to fall back on that. Fnatic takes the Gangplank, which is super OP, 100% agree with the pick, and Gragas, which I thought was a little bit interesting because last week their priority on Nidalee was a lot higher than this. But I guess after all those questionable performances by Spirit, they decided that Gragas would be a better pick because it's a team-based champion and it has a lot more utility than a champion like Nidalee, where on Nidalee, if you don't get ahead or you're not winning your jungle matchup hard, it's just not as useful as other champions. So up to this point, no problems with the draft from my end. H2K has a free jungle counter pick if they want. They can take Nidalee into Gragas, which is a really good matchup for Nidalee, and they don't even have to show it here. So what they end up doing, which I think is pretty smart, is they take the Braum, and the Braum is a good pick against double ADs, and it makes the fact that they have the Corki and potentially another AD even stronger. Also, not only is Braum good against double AD, it also synergizes well with double AD because ranged auto attacks obviously proc the Q from Braum or the passive from Braum a lot faster. So really like the Braum pick. I actually just think Braum's a really strong champion right now, but it also makes sense conceptually here. And the Nautilus pick can pretty much lane into anything top. They've been putting IWDominate on a decent amount of tanks. He's also played some carries. He's played a little bit of Fiora, but and I think he played like a GP game or two, but he's a solid tank player. He plays pretty much tanks and Rumble top from the previous seasons, and yeah, I like the Nautilus pick here. I think Nautilus has very few bad matchups top, and I completely understand the pick here. So this is the first part in the draft where I think Fnatic messed up, and this might just be a result of them not having anything else to pick because there's so many ADs banned. But the Ezreal into Braum is something that I just generally don't like at all. The Braum shield is able to catch so many Ezreal ultimates, and you'll see in this game how effective the Braum is specifically into Ezreal. Just the ability, that champion just directly counters the Ezreal ultimate at all points in the game. So I just really don't like the Ezreal into Braum. Also, at this point, they're pretty much saying that they're not going to have there's going to be 2 lanes that they have that are automatically not going to be strong early because Ezreal is a scaling AD. You start with a tier, so you can't push the lane that well. And then you have to scale into your Frozen Fist and Muramana. So that champion is just not going to be strong early, and Gangplank is another champion that takes a while to turn on. You really need a 2 to 3 item power spike on Gangplank to get going, which I thought was kind of weird because in Fnatic's draft, they decided to pick up the Thresh too, where Thresh is a lane dominant champion, but Ezreal's the opposite of that. So it felt like they kind of got pigeonholed into these picks because a lot of the champions that they practiced were banned. Like from H2K side, they already have Nautilus and Braum. Both of those can go support. You have the Alistar banned as well. So I'm not exactly sure what Fnatic would pick for a support here if they didn't go Thresh. If they're actually that short on picks for support, then maybe taking the Braum earlier would have been better, because if Jankos gets Gragas, I don't think that's as detrimental, because Spirit will still be able to get a good matchup into that. And if he can't play Nidalee into Gragas, then he should just drop Nidalee completely, because that's probably the best matchup you're going to get. Also, when you guarantee that you have 2 losing lanes, you pretty much force yourself into having to 2v1, or you're just going to lose a bunch of turrets early. So that's why I didn't like the draft from Fnatic here up to this point. I think they really messed up on the Ezreal pick, combined with the Thresh pick. With Alistar banned, it's really hard to get the Ezreal through lane unscathed. You're forced with 2v1, and even 2v1 can go poorly for you because you just don't have that great push. Also, if you do put the Gangplank top and you 2v1, the Gangplank's not getting as much farm as you would like. So it just gives you very few options, and it pretty much guarantees that you're going to be behind early, which is never a strategy that I like for competitive. And H2K follows this up with the Caitlyn pick, which I think is a strong pick for Forgiven. It's a fallback champion with all these champions banned, pretty much 5 ADs selected or banned before he gets a choice to pick. And he just falls back to the Caitlyn. It's always been one of his picks. He's one of the early adopters of it, and it syncs well with what Forgiven wants to do, which is shit on lane, push you into turret over and over again, accumulate a CS lead, and then eventually take your turret. So I'm 100% on board with the Caitlyn pick, and the Nidalee pick, getting it 5th pick, I think is such a steal. That's why I think the Gragas pick could have been either delayed or just not picked here, because Nidalee is just such a strong champion. It's worth first picking, and you're getting it as your 5th pick. And with H2K's comp, they're guaranteed to have pressure around mid, because they have the earliest pressure mid laner and the earliest pressure jungler in the same team at the same time. And this is going to allow them to have so much map control around mid. They can push up mid, either take the turret together or walk into the enemy jungle, contest buffs. They have the early mid jungle priority, so they can just move bottom potentially. They can get deep wards. They can literally do whatever they want in the game. And this is why I think H2K's draft is so good here, is because they have a pressure lane bottom with Caitlyn, a pressure lane mid, a pressure jungler, and then a top laner that's not going to lose to anything. So really like the pick so far. And this is another problem I have with Fnatic's draft right here, is I feel like at this point the Gangplank should be going to top lane. And you should be picking something mid that's good against the enemy team. So, for example, things you could pick would be maybe a LeBlanc. Maybe you don't like the LeBlanc Corki matchup, so maybe that's not your pick there. You have the other option of going something like a Control Mage, which I've seen a decent amount of success on when you go Control Mage into something like Corki. So you have the option of going maybe Orianna here, or you can go TF potentially and try to get like a double global comp. You have the option of even going something like Lissandra or Ahri. I just think you have way more options if you put the Gangplank top here, and you can guarantee that the Gangplank at least farms evenly. And Gangplank is a champion where I never really worry about him falling too far behind because he generates so much gold naturally, and even at 2v1 he'll be able to farm at some point, and he'll be able to get a little bit of gold that he needs to get his Triforce, and from there the game shouldn't be that difficult. So, yep, pick and ban phase. Last pick, Maokai. I mean, I honestly just don't see the value you're getting out of the last pick, Maokai. It doesn't seem like you're getting this good counter pick, which is the whole advantage of red side, is that you get one guaranteed counter pick on your team. So Maokai into Nautilus is actually a matchup where Nautilus wins early. Nautilus has pressure in the lane. If Nautilus wants, he can just push you over and over again to your turret, and you'll eventually lose CS on Maokai. So just questionable pick in my mind. Did not really agree with the Maokai 5th pick here. So let's jump into the game. Yeah, and another reason that you need to 2v1 is when your jungler's playing against a Nidalee, the Nidalee's going to walk into your jungle and you're going to need to collapse. But if you have no pressure lanes, right here you have literally 0 pressure lanes. Nautilus shoves in Maokai early if he wants to. Corki will shove in Gangplank 100%, like pretty much the entire game. And Ezreal will get pushed by Caitlyn early. So you have no pressure lane, so you need to 2v1 to make sure your jungler doesn't get fucked. Which I was surprised that Fnatic didn't even attempt to 2v1. Like, if they blind swapped bottom top and then H2K read that mind game and laned it straight up, I would have been fine with it. But the fact that they didn't was really, really bad in my mind. I don't like the decision to not 2v1 here. Yeah, and Carpo's actually talking about it right now, but he's 100% right that you should be lane swapping this game. You have no pressure lanes. If you have no pressure lanes, the lane swap just benefits you. If you have no pressure lanes and a scaling comp, which pretty much is how it's going to work. If you don't have pressure lanes and you also don't outscale the enemy, then there's literally no point to your comp. You got completely outdrafted. But in this case, they at least outscale. They need to be trying to play towards that scaling by extending the game in 2v1ing. Yep, and Jankos. I think this game he probably should have started traps, just because he would have been able to clear a little bit faster. And I personally just like trap start. Now that I've done it a little bit more, it seems like trap start is just optimal if you're able to micro perfectly, and it will get you a really guaranteed level 3, or a really quick level 3 here. But that's really minor. It's player preference. There's times where I've started Spear too, so I used to have the mentality that you start Spear on Gromp and you start traps on Golems. Doesn't really affect anything too much. And IWDominate is letting himself get pushed in because they already know that Nidalee's going to be playing around bot side. So right here is why the idea of not 2v1ing is so terrible from H2K. Like, this is literally the worst Jankos could play this. Like, he wasn't sneaky about it. He walked directly into the jungle. He missed the spear. Here he hits the spear, but then he gets, like, canceled out. Isn't able to, like, really get as much pressure as he should be, but it doesn't even matter. Just the fact that he's Nidalee, he takes small trades, misses another spear. Just the fact that he's Nidalee and he's here and there's no threat of him being collapsed on this entire time just means that essentially Spirit is screwed in the early game. So Jankos can easily take the Wolves, gets another free blue, so he's just going to be ahead on that. Afterwards, Jankos should take the Gromp as well. He should just literally take this whole bottom side. He gets 3 camps. Spirit gets 1 camp on the other side of his jungle. And not only that, he had to walk all the way over here. So this is pretty much how you get screwed by Nidalee. If Nidalee is able to get 1 full side of your jungle and pressure you out and waste your time, that's how Nidalee gets a lead. So yeah, what I would have done here, which I think Django should have done, is, okay, maybe getting the crab is fine, but he should just recall right now, get his jungle item, or get an amp tome, whatever he wants, and then he should just continue clearing from bottom side top. So he should start on his golems and then go all the way to top and just get a big lead based off farm. And then the next time he runs into Spirit, he'll probably be up a level and a half to 2 levels. But that's minor. And right now, Fnatic is already down 500 gold. Or more, 800 gold. Just from the lane phase. They're down 800 gold. I'm not really sure if Fib even meant to take Strength of the Ages here. I mean, I'm assuming he did because like most players don't make mistakes with their keystone. But I also think Strength of the Ages is a weird keystone for Gangplank. I've normally seen Grasp with the Undying because it gives you that extra sustain in lane. Gives you a little bit more poke damage with your Q. And I think that would probably have maybe eased up this situation mid. Okay, so Yango's actually cleared towards his top side and backed, which I didn't necessarily like because the advantage he had in farm is pretty much cut down here. If he did the other path that I was talking about earlier, he would have been able to meet up when his Gromp was spawning and have more options of like whether he wanted to walk in, invade Spirit again, which he can do all game. And I just think he would have been able to get more pressure down. Which is funny because he's going to develop a big CS lead, but Nidalee's the type of champion where, I don't know, after seeing like players like Crash and Korea play Nidalee, the amount of CS lead you can get can be insane. Like you can have 100 CS at 13 minutes as a jungle Nidalee. This is just a weird situation. I think that you just let your bot lane play by themselves here. I personally don't like sitting around on Nidalee. I just think there's better uses of your time. He's essentially just wasted a minute, which is, to me, like a really bad situation for Nidalee. He should be nearing his level 6, honestly. And he allowed Spirit to catch up even after he got up full side of his jungle. So yeah, he's pushing a mid. He's trying to like counter jungle the race, but it's not efficient, right? It's not syncing up with when his camps are coming up. Like the way that I think Nidalee's played best is when you clear your jungle, you use the fact that you clear your jungle faster to buy you time to go in, put your deep wards, and then go back to clearing your jungle or counter jungle the enemy during that time. But essentially, he's only denied 3 camps from Spirit this whole time. And one of them doesn't even really count because he traded Gromp for Gromp. So he's only up 2 camps on Spirit, which I think he can be up even more. His wraiths have been sitting there for a while, and here's just a bot play. They just try to make the bot play. This was actually kind of risky because they had no idea where Jankos really was. Like, Jankos showed top about a minute ago, but if he read it and he went all the way bot lane, he might have been able to like turn this play. But in general, Forgiven misplayed a little bit in the early lane, and he got hooked into turret, so he had to burn his flash, and that resulted in this fight being forced on them. So, a little bit unfortunate. I'm going to skip the pause. But yeah, I don't think Gragas should be even level with Nidalee at all after what happened early. So, what happens here is actually really smart from Gamsu. He knows that his lane's pushing out top, and IWDominate has to match it, and his blue's coming up, and the enemy team is pressuring his blue side, so he goes here to try to follow up the play from his team. I don't know if he consciously made this decision, or he was just going to like place a pink ward in river, and this is what ended up happening. And, yep. They get into a fight here. I actually think they could have got more out of it here. Spirit messed up. He didn't flash the Braum passive when it was about to proc. But yeah, here, Gamsu, if you go back a little bit, Gamsu's making this sneaky play, and he's not seen it all. He hasn't crossed the ward yet. And then he randomly, like, H2K's pushing forward, and then they see the sapling come over the wall. They're like, oh, shit. Like, as soon as they notice that, they're like, all right, let's run. Like, Maokai's here, and he ends up not being able to clean up. I think if he just didn't throw the sapling and he just walked around the bend here and was able to just flank H2K, he could have got a lot more. Like, he ends up getting 3 flashes, which is really good anyway, but I think he could have potentially got a kill if he was just able to flank around the back and just jump on Yankos. But yeah, they got first blood, and they are only ahead 200 gold because their lane pressure is so minimal. It's essentially just going to be even, actually. So what you're going to see here is because Fnatic's been shoved into the turret in all 3 lanes, their turrets are a little bit chipped. In each lane, their turret has taken chip damage. So bot lane's half life, top lane's maybe 3/4 life. I think mid lane's actually only like a 1/3 life. And now they can just abuse the Nidalee. The Nidalee doesn't even need to play well at this point. He just needs to go to the lanes that already have pressure and sit with the laner and auto the turret. Okay, so mid lanes have to. But they can really just abuse the fact that there's no pressure lanes from Fnatic right now. So, yep, Ryu gets blue buff. He has package. I'm pretty sure he doesn't use it here. It's kind of just a waste of a package, but oh well. Fnatic should not be doing Dragon. They're just trying to get a ward in. But yeah, the reason they can't Dragon is because they have no lane pressure. And Yankos and Vander grouping and warding together, which is really good. Good play from the jungler, but honestly, they could have got even more out of this Nidalee pick than they did already, especially with 3 pressure lanes. Like, I know the feeling of playing Nidalee with 3 pressure lanes. It is literally the best feeling in the game as a jungler. You can do anything you want. You can go to any lane, try to make kills happen anywhere. It just feels really good. I'm curious to see how much health Forbidden's actually gained off his passive, or off his keystone so far. Strength of the Ages. Because I honestly think that Gratz would have just made the lane phase just even better. Easier to play. Some counter jungle here. Good. And IWDominate uses the fact that he pushed up top to just go mid and take the turret. So this is where the lane pressure really comes into play. You've pretty much got outplayed as a team so far in terms of team-wide plays, and you're up 1,000 gold just because your draft is so good and just because you have such strong pressure lanes on every point in the map. And what happens when you have pressure lanes is it snowballs. If all 3 lanes are pushing in, then top can push in top, rotate mid, or TP bottom. Mid can push in mid, then either rotate top or bot, and it makes it really hard to play the game for Fnatic. If you see, Fnatic doesn't have 1 ward past the river or even in the river right now because they have to defensively ward everything and just try to predict what camps of theirs are going to be stolen and what buffs are going to be contested. It's really hard to play from Fnatic side, and you can really tell just based off the ward line. And regardless of gold lead, even if H2K wasn't up 1,000 gold, let's say H2K was behind 1,000 gold, they would still be able to have better aggressive wards, and they would still have pressure, or they still would have the ability to have map control just because their champions early game were so strong compared to what Fnatic has. So yeah, Yankos is just going bottom. They're not even looking for a fight. He just showed right there, which was whatever. Clearly wasn't good. There was another spear. Now they definitely know. Maybe he was just trying to get the creep, dude. You never know. But what can you do as Fnatic here? You pretty much just have, like, the only play you have from Fnatic is you have Maokai back off the turret, and then he TVs bottom, and you try to just force a fight. Because you're not going to win based off just pushing. And you can't even do that right now because Forbidden just got chunked out. He has to shop. Now Ryu and Yankos are just going to the jungle together. They're pushing the wave in. Then they're going to go bottom, take the turret. Like, this is why having pressure lanes is so important early game. And if you don't have pressure lanes, you need to 2v1 because Fnatic has outplayed their opponents in terms of ganks and knowing, like, where they want to get kills on the map. But just because of their draft and because of the lanes that they have, they're so far behind. in terms of tempo. And this turret is chipped. It's just getting lower and lower. Spirit has literally only farmed the Grump in the last minute and a half. He sat in bot, went back, farmed the Grump, watched his wolves get stolen from him, and then he farmed the Grump again. And now he's sitting back in lane. So here, I think you have other options. I can understand Jankos wanting to protect his bottom lane, but I just think that this isn't that conducive to the way Nidalee should be played. I think that as a Nidalee, his 3 camps on the top side have been sitting up forever. I think that what he should have done is go in like he did with Ryu, take the wolves, get deep wards, then run back, clear his race, clear his wolves, clear his Grump, and then pressure top. Like there's when you have 3 pressure lanes, you can pressure wherever on the map you want. So I think he should just be efficient with clearing his jungle and then just take the objectives that are close to him. The other option is he just clears 3 camps, walks into the enemy topside jungle, gets wards down, then calls over IWDominate, takes Rift Herald, and then just has the move speed advantage and can make a lot more plays. So, yep. Like honestly, H2K's ball lane should be able to live a situation like that. If they just make sure that they don't have a TP ward behind them in lane, they shouldn't be dying. So that just requires you pinking your own lane brush in bottom lane, because that's the lane that you get, or that's the brush you get ganked off of. Second package. Ryu probably can't do anything with this one either. It's a little bit unfortunate. Blue buff reset. Doesn't matter too much though. So yeah, as you can see here, this is pretty much the worst that the game can go from the H2K side. Like the other option, the other way this game could go in standard lanes is H2K could just make the better play bottom. He'd get the 3-for-1 in their favor, and then pretty much all Fnatic can do is split the map. And what I mean by splitting the map is they sacrifice one half of the map, and then they send all 4 people to the other side of the map, and they try to just trade turrets evenly, trade buffs and objectives evenly for the foreseeable future until they're able to fight. And something that I like from H2K here is they're really smart about having lane priority and transferring that into controlling objectives. Whenever you control anything, you want to push out mid and bot, or mid and top, depending on what you want to control. You want to push up the 2 lanes adjacent to what objective you're controlling, and you want to control that objective once the enemy team has to respond to the lanes. So there, they push in mid and bot and go for the objective. They aren't able to get it because Fnatic is there. And then once the lanes start pushing to their side, they don't stick there and they don't continue trying to get the objective. They just push up mid, and then they use that to rotate top and control more of the map. And here, I really think that they should have done Rift Herald. I don't know why they've been ignoring Rift Herald so much this game, but it's just a free objective, and it gives bonus move speed, so I think it's good for Nidalee. Also, it allows you to recall and get on the map quicker, so in general, I just think they should have had higher priority on it. I think that when you have control like this, you should be just taking side objectives as well. You should be taking everything. And Ezreal finishes the turret. It's not bad right now. Yanko still has a 18-minute Roa, which is completely fine. So pretty much all you have here is you have the side objectives up, so they should be really looking to get first dragon. When you have that much pressure mid and that much pressure bottom, there's no reason for dragon to be up this late. You should just be taking it just to get the buff and just to like start having that extra win condition. I think it's really important when you're snowballing or when you have an early game comp to control the side objectives. They're going for Rift Herald here, which is smart. Just playing the macro game. And now they're moving their vision just deeper and deeper into the enemy jungle after they've got the first turret down. If you saw before, their wards were just at the Fnatic entrances. That's where the wards were originally when they didn't have turrets down yet. And now that they have complete control, their ward line is deeper. Their pink line has been moved up from being like a river pink line to being an aggressive pink line. They move their pinks into the enemy jungle, and they are moving their wards even deeper than their pinks to just catch whenever Fnatic is trying to make a play. So essentially, anytime Fnatic goes for something like this, H2K just has the option to back off, and eventually they're just going to lose damage on their turrets here. This is just way too aggressive from IWDominate, going up and taking the turret like that. I personally don't really like top laner taking, like, if the top lane's a tank and he's not going to be able to get pressure, I think the jungler is just better with the Rift Herald, just because of the movement speed it gives you. And I think that as a jungler, you have more options to go in pressure lane. So you can run mid, get a couple hits on mid, then use your move speed to go bottom, get a couple hits on bottom. And they ended up getting the bot turret here for it nonetheless, but it still was not optimal in my mind with how they got their pressure down. And now they're burning their ults just to save the turret, which is smart. Even though IWDominate died, they traded one kill for one turret, which is definitely worth for H2K. And just off having better picks and having pressure lanes, they're up 3,000 gold now. I definitely really respect H2K's macro game. Out of the 3 teams that are at the top of the table in Europe, which would be H2K, Vitality, and G2, H2K's macro game, I think, is by far the best. By far forgiven, dude. I'm never gonna hear the end of that. Okay, so Jankos is being over aggressive. I don't even know why he's throwing spears at this wave, but he loses flash forward. He actually could have died there potentially. Spirit should have just E'd, and then during the E stun he should have ulted Jankos back, but he decided against it, unfortunately. Maybe gameplay wouldn't have been able to follow that up, but I think it just, if you're going to burn the ult, it's better to just burn the ult and then Q afterwards. I think it's a bad habit that a lot of Gragas players have, myself included, because in the last season, your slow as well as your damage would both scale off the time that the barrel was on the ground. So to get an optimal CC chain, you would want to E auto with your W up, drop your Q, and then ult them back, and then while they're traveling in the air, pop your Q so you got the maximum damage and CC. But now with the move speed slow being standard at all ranks for Gragas, I think it's just better to I think it's just better to use the ult first and then just the Q afterwards to wherever he lands. Just get the instant slow, just insta pop the barrel. Yep. Fnatic is scaling, and this is the price you pay when you play GP Ezreal. You're going to be behind, and you're just going to have to rely on not making mistakes once you do get your core items on both of those champions. So pretty much Fnatic's only plays right now are to keep on farming, and then once H2K goes for a turret push, TPing behind and then instantly starting the fight and trying to make sure that you get an advantage out of having more engaged in the enemy team. Because H2K's team is pretty low on engage. They pretty much have Nautilus for engage, and that's about it. Whereas Fnatic has Maokai to engage and Gragas to engage, and even Thresh has decent engage as well. So all those pieces of engage combined with the fact that you have a GP ult to kind of slow them into it or combo with your engage, I think just makes you want to get team fights, especially now because both your GP and your Ezreal have 2 items. And if you don't fight now, the game's just going to start getting more and more out of hand. But if you see like how the game's been going, just track how long the enemy minion line So the Fnatic minion line has been on the H2K side of the map almost never, and H2K's minion line has been almost always on the Fnatic side of the map. It's either even or on Fnatic's side of the map the entire game, which is really what you want out of lane pressure. And now their second turrets, because they're just extending their ward line deeper and deeper, they're trying to focus on mid and top turrets, so they're getting deep vision in between the top two turrets for Fnatic, and they just slowly chip down top and mid, and eventually are able to take those. So yeah, so eventually what H2K is going to do is they're going to keep this vision control of topside jungle. They really should have taken Dragon. Like, them having 0 dragons at 25 minutes when you've had complete control of the game is just bad. At least get the first one. Also, the second dragon now helps you more with turrets because it gives you turret burn. So I think that that's more useful than the other passive on the second dragon. So I think just having dragon control, you can easily have 2 or 3 dragons by this point when you have this much pressure. And it'll just make the game even easier because as you get more dragons, the turret burn will help you take turrets faster. The movement speed will help you control vision and move between turrets faster as well. So you'll just have a bunch of control. So pretty much H2K just has to push up mid and top and wait until they feel like they're strong enough to tank the Baron. It's pretty much what you can do at this point. Either that or you just keep on rotating between mid and top over and over again, threaten the top inhib, and if the team goes to react to that, Fnatic goes to react to that, you take the mid turret. So you just really want to just run Fnatic around the map and just abuse the fact that you're still stronger to just get an advantage. They started Dragon, or they started Baron here. It's a little bit premature, honestly. It's decent. Yeah, that's pretty bad. You can't get caught like that when your team's controlling Baron. So this is Fnatic's power play. They just killed Forgiven. They need to just force something now, and luckily for them, Gamsu is able to tank the Baron pretty effectively, just because he has the sustain from his passive. He actually has no armor, so it's not great tanking of the Baron, but it's better than what H2K has to work with right now. Gamsu's just passive tanking it over and over again. And you pretty much just have to rely on like 50-50ing a Baron, which is why I hate this team comp. Is like you're so weak early game that you're guaranteed to be behind, and you end up just kind of forcing yourself into a 50-50. And this time Jankos ends up getting it. It was actually a pretty good steal. He got it from a really high amount of life. It was almost a perfect smite from him, and yeah, it was a pretty big throw from H2K that ended up going even because of an outplay. So yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough for Fnatic right now. Pretty much they have to just rely on waiting out the Baron, holding, and then next time that they're able to make a play or they're able to get a pick, they're gonna have to be working with like an even bigger goal deficit. So instead of being a 5K deficit when they made this last play, they're going to be going dealing with like a 10K deficit or like an 8K deficit, something like that. And H2K finally take Dragon 1 at 27 minutes when they had lane pressure all game. It's understandable because clearly the way H2K is like trained themselves to play is very turret centric and very like, all right, push up, get deep wards, rotate between turrets, like pressure the turrets, pressure the turrets, pressure the turrets. So they're not really focused on side objectives, but I think when you're winning a game this hard, you just have to up that priority on side objectives a little bit. You don't have to sacrifice anything for it, but for example, if Jankos is going to be waiting bot like he was like level 9 for 30 seconds, what he can do instead is he can just go solo the Dragon, just get a little bit of extra gold, or not extra gold, like extra gold for himself, but extra stats for his team. So, yep. Fnatic just has to stall out because now they're against the Baroned up team. And Ryu has package. I mean, they don't have many Barons. They only have Barons on, I think, Nidalee and Braum, but still, you have to respect the push that's going to come through. And also, GP is pretty hard to play into this comp right here because with Nidalee and Caitlyn and Corki, you're playing against 3 champions that have ranged auto attack, so it's really easy for them to clear the barrels. It's pretty hard for you to get good barrel chains off into this team. So they got the mid turret, now they're up 8k gold. And then they're going to rotate top, and there's something I really want to talk about in regards to sieging turrets and how you're supposed to do that effectively in competitive play. How you're supposed to do it as a tank in competitive play, because I think IWDominate messes up here pretty bad, and I'll kind of tell you what you should be doing as a tank when you're sieging a turret. So they're pushing up. They're keeping mid pressure while Ryu's splitting top, and then once Ryu gets the wave close, they're going to rotate up there and meet his wave and try to go for the turret. Yep, IWDominate is meeting it here. And this is where I see the problem from IWDominate. Right here. Walking up and hitting this turret is bad as a tank. It just compromises you way too much. What you want to be doing is you want to be in front of your AD carry. In this case, it's Corki, which obviously does a lot of magic damage. But anyway, your AD carry is going to be trying to hit the turret. You just want to be standing in front of the AD carry so that it's not easy to attack the AD carry. But walking up and hitting the turret really forces you to get initiated on, which is what Fnatic wants. So in this situation, IWDominate should just be positioning a little bit in front of Ryu, but not all the way at the turret. Because when he's at the turret, he's just going to get rooted by Gamsu. Spirit's going to like start knocking him back, and he's just going to get caught where as if he's caught a little bit further back, he won't be directly in the turret, and his team will be able to return damage onto the guy that's onto the people that are trying to go in on IWDominate. So him walking up to the turret, it just makes it really hard for his team to follow this up. He doesn't have flash either, so I mean, if you look at the turret damage he took so much unnecessary turret damage where if he's just positioned a little bit further back, he'll not be exposed to all that. So that's pretty much a free death. I mean, Cly ended up dying too, but that was not even necessary. The Thresh is just trying to make more happen there. But yeah, it's the way you kind of end a siege. You just need to position where you're tanking damage for your AD carry who's hitting the turret. You don't need to actually be hitting the turret yourself because, yeah, sure, he has like a Sheen proc, but that's not what's going to kill the turret. What's going to kill the turret is Corki autos, Caitlyn autos. That's what actually hurts the turret. I also thought Forgiven's build was actually pretty smart here. Normally, I don't like double attack speed items on Caitlyn, but he noticed that the enemy team was building literally 0 armor. Or now, obviously, there's like a little piece of armor from Spirit, but he's abusing the fact that he has 3 APs on his team to just go a more damage outputting build. So he went Vam Scepter into Phantom Dancer, so he just has a lot of crit and just a higher damage build than if he were to go like something like a Last Whisper here, or if he were to go a BT. But yep. H2K is winning by 7k. At least the saving grace from this situation is that since Fnatic does have a scaling comp, all they need to do is win one really good fight. If they get another pick on Forgiven or a pick on Ryu or something, they'll have a very easy time snowballing the game back in their favor, mainly because there's so many turrets on the map for Fnatic to take. They haven't even touched the tier 2s yet. All right, let's go back. Let's go back and watch this because the way IWDominate plays this as a tank is like really bad. And as a tank player, I think he should know to play these fights better. But this ends up being like, this is a good call to start a fight here. So they hit the slow, and they're going in on this. They're TPing behind, TP flank. All right. Thresh had already flashed, so just kill Thresh. But walking in like this, like look at this turret damage that IWDominate is taking. He's sitting just under the turret, tanking all this damage. He got killed by pretty much just the turret there, when his team is nowhere close to follow up. As a tank, you have to be conscious of where your damage dealers are and and what they can hit. And you need to be tanking for them, not just running in and trying to like kill Ezreal by himself. I think he was autoing Ezreal that whole time. Like maybe he was trying to kill him. I'm not sure what he was doing, but this is like the worst way you could play a situation as a tank, because he's not even absorbing damage from the enemy champion. He's absorbing damage from only the tower pretty much. So yeah, okay, Ezreal's out of the fight. He should just be like CCing Spirit for his team. There's no reason to be walking forward here. Like and his team just is getting zoned because there's a Gangplank ultimate behind him. GP's setting up barrels. It's just really hard for them to follow that engage up. So that was a really poor team fight from IWDominate. I don't know if he was tilted this game or what, but like he made a like really aggressive or really over aggressive plays, and he's 1-5-2 right now, and his team had so much pressure on the map, which is pretty unfortunate. And Fnatic for pretty much like all micro related things are outplaying H2K right now, but H2K's comp and the fact that they've had so much lane pressure has just given them now a 7K gold lead. Yeah, and like here, IWDominate could have at least walked back, but he gets rooted under turret, and he literally takes probably 1.5K to 2K damage just from the inhibitor turret. That is, it's pretty rough. And all Fnatic need to do is they need to win like one team fight that's not completely at their side. Like if they win a team fight at Baron, or if they win a team fight in the middle of mid lane, they'll end up getting so much gold because there's two turrets. There's an inner and an outer turret top. There's an inner turret mid. There's Baron. There's an inner turret bot. If they are able to win one fight, they'll just have such a huge influx of gold because they're behind so many turrets. So at this point, if Fnatic, like even though Fnatic's down 8 or like 7K at this point, if they win one team fight, then they're essentially even in terms of the game, because they'll be within 2 to 3K and their comp will be stronger, so they'll just be ahead in terms of like team fighting, and it'll make it really hard for H2K. Yeah, essentially, I just don't think that Fnatic set themselves up for success this game, either through draft, not 2v1ing. Just problems here. And Spirit takes the dragon. So it's 1-1 in dragons at 35 minutes. Something that you'll notice when you watch other regions, like for example Korea has way higher dragon priority than all the other regions right now, and I think it's actually the right way to play. If you have pressure in lanes, there's no reason to just leave that up. Like sure, it's not as strong as it was last season, and games are on average shorter, but like let's say you're snowballing through dragons this game as H2K, you could be potentially hitting a 5th dragon at this point. Like this could be an actual win condition. Jankos could have probably taken the dragon as early as 8 or 9 minutes. Take your first one at 8, then it makes it 14-second, 23rd, 26 on your 4th dragon, then 32 potentially you can have a 5th dragon power spike. Obviously they lost one here, so maybe it'd be more around like a 38, 39, 40-minute dragon, but that's still a viable win condition that you force the enemy team to play around. And it's a really good way to take fights if you're not able to actually engage on the enemy. So here, since they have very low engage, their only engage is Nautilus, it's a good way to make the enemy team come through your vision and fight you, which is what you want. And this is just a macro mistake from Fnatic. Like they're just not aware of the Baron. You have Gamsu backing right now. He decides to TP, but they just didn't have vision of it and they didn't realize. And this right here is like a solo queue tilt chase. The enemy team is full life. They just got Baron, and they're perfectly positioned. This is great formation for H2K. Both their tanks are in front. The enemy damage dealers can only hit the tanks. All their carries are spread out, so they can't get AoE'd by a Gangplank combo of like ulti on top of barrels. This is perfect for formation. This is exactly the fight H2K wants, and Fnatic just seemed like they were actually tilted by the fact that they lost the Baron. They're like, all right, we lost the Baron? Well, fuck, just fight them. Like that's literally how it looks like they're playing right here. And it ends up going so terribly for them. All the ADs are just killing Gamsu. And IWDominate gets hit by everything. It doesn't matter. This is good tank formation. He's tanking damage from the enemy team. Reckless tries to shift in, which honestly was a bad decision. He should have just been playing that like full retreat mode because he should have recognized that the team was losing. Honestly, they might have lost the game here anyway, but this just goes to show you is like Fnatic was winning pretty much every micro situation that they played and like every team fight that they played the entire game, but because H2K had lane pressure in every lane, they had an early pressure jungler, and they had just a better draft in general, they just need to win one situation. If they win that one situation at 10 minutes or they win that one situation at 36 minutes, it doesn't matter because they're so far ahead based off picks and based off how the game was going in the early game that they're just able to pretty much win the entire game and snowball so hard. And here it ends up being they win one fight at Baron, get Baron, end the game. So, yep. That I thought was a really solid macro performance from H2K. Honestly, there was a lot of micro problems that I saw in terms of not getting enough farm on Nidalee, not playing the fights correctly, not playing well around their own summoners and like knowing which ones were up and which ones weren't. But yeah, I just thought that that was a really solid game to really exemplify how important draft and early game is in these competitive games. So thanks for watching, guys. This is obviously the EU LCS VOD review for the week. We've got some more VOD reviews coming up this weekend. Got to see which games are really interesting from NA, and there's also a couple really good games in EU. I think G2 plays Vitality, which would be a really fun game to watch. So we're gonna have to look forward to those, and hopefully we get a really good game out of EU next week as well. So. Thanks for watching my video. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in my next VOD review. Thanks for watching.